I thought exhaustion had a limit. Turns out, it doesn't. It just keeps pressing down on your shoulders until you stop noticing the weight, until you're moving through the world like a ghost in scrubs, your hands still smelling of antiseptic and someone else's fear. That's what 2 a.m. looks like when you're an ICU nurse who said yes to another double shift because student loans don't care about sleep. The hallway of my building swayed slightly. Or maybe that was me. I fumbled with my keys, grocery bags cutting into my wrists, oranges rolling against the paper like small promises of vitamin C and better choices. 4B, my apartment, my sanctuary of unwashed dishes and a mattress on the floor, home. Except the key slid in too smoothly, and the door opened into a different world entirely. Marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows, the city glittering 40 stories below like scattered diamonds, and him. You will feel so many emotions in this mysterious love story I'm about to tell. Please support us by clicking subscribe to the channel. Dominic Carrera stood in the center of all that cold luxury, fresh from a shower, water still trailing down his neck, disappearing beneath a black silk bathrobe that probably cost more than my monthly rent. He didn't move, didn't startle, just watched me with eyes the color of slate before a storm, and I realized, with the kind of clarity that comes right before you do something catastrophically stupid, that I'd walked through the wrong door. You have 10 seconds. His voice was gravel and smoke, to tell me why I shouldn't assume you're here to kill me. My oranges hit the marble. Rolled. The sound was obscenely loud. I should have run, should have screamed, should have done literally anything except stand there cataloging details I had no business noticing. The scar crossing his collarbone like a signature, the way he held himself with the absolute stillness of someone who'd been hurt before and learned to hurt back first. The gun I suddenly realized was in his hand, held low against his thigh, casual as a house key. If I wanted you dead, the words came from somewhere beyond my exhaustion, I wouldn't have knocked first. Something shifted in his face. Not quite a smile. More like the ghost of one, haunting the corner of his mouth. You knocked? Force of habit. I'm a catastrophically polite assassin. Now he did smile. And it was worse than the gun. Dangerous in a completely different way. You're the nurse from 4B. Not a question. A statement. Which meant he knew. Had known. How long had he been watching me? You're 4C, I managed. My brain finally catching up to the disaster my body had stumbled into. I thought this was 4B. Common mistake. I've had 3 would-be killers make the same error this month. That's not funny. It wasn't meant to be. He moved then, crossing the space between us with the kind of grace that made you forget he'd been holding a weapon seconds ago. The gun disappeared somewhere in the folds of silk. He crouched, started collecting my oranges with hands that seemed too careful for violence. And I saw more scars. Small ones. The kind you accumulate over time. Not in one catastrophic moment. How long have you been watching me? The question escaped before I could stop it. He stood, handed me the oranges cradled in the bottom of my torn grocery bag. Up close, he smelled like expensive soap and something darker. Cedar, maybe, or danger. Long enough to know you work doubles on Tuesdays and Thursdays, that you take the stairs because the elevator makes you anxious, that you eat cereal for dinner standing at your kitchen counter because you're too tired to sit down. My skin went cold. That's necessary, he interrupted. Someone needs to know if the woman living 1 floor below me is a threat. I'm a nurse. So is the woman who poisoned a Russian oligarch in London last year. I stepped back. He let me. The door was still open behind me, showing my actual apartment across the hall, my crooked welcome mat, my normal life. I should go. Yes, you should. But he said it like he didn't mean it, or like he meant something else entirely. I turned, made it 3 steps. His voice stopped me. Miss Clark. I didn't ask how he knew my name. From now on, use the correct door. And if anyone asks about tonight, about me, you saw nothing. Why would anyone ask? Because people who see too much don't last long in this building. And I'd prefer you to last. The words settled between us like a promise or a threat. I couldn't tell which. Maybe both. I left, crossed the hall, locked my door, stood in my tiny kitchen with its peeling linoleum and single working burner, and tried to convince myself I'd imagined it all. Exhaustion, stress, too many hours breathing recycled hospital air. But the next morning, There was something new outside my door. A security system, top of the line, commercial grade, and a note on heavy cardstock, the kind rich people use. Install it. D. I crumpled the note, threw it away, retrieved it from the trash 10 minutes later. The security system sat in its box for 3 days. I stepped over it every morning, walked past it every night, pretended it didn't exist, pretended he didn't exist, went back to my life of double shifts and instant coffee and the comfortable anonymity of being nobody to anyone. Except I wasn't anonymous anymore. The black car appeared on Tuesday. Same make, same model, different license plate each time, idling across from the hospital entrance when my shift ended. I told myself it was paranoia, exhaustion playing tricks. But then my supervisor called me into her office with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Someone paid your parking tickets, Emma. All of them. $800. My mouth went dry. Who? Anonymous donation. Made in your name. I wanted to throw up. Instead, I smiled, thanked her, went to my car and found a receipt tucked under the wiper. Paid in full, and beneath it, in that same heavy cardstock, "You're welcome. D." I drove home gripping the steering wheel hard enough to leave marks. Stormed up the stairs, screw the elevator and its anxiety, and pounded on the door of 4C with all the fury of someone whose autonomy had just been purchased without permission. He opened the door in a suit this time. Charcoal gray, tailored to the kind of precision that whispered old money and new threats. He looked unsurprised to see me. Looked like he'd been expecting this. "You can't do this." I pushed past him into that pristine penthouse. "You can't just insert yourself into my life like you own it." "I don't own it. I'm protecting it." "I didn't ask for protection." "No." He closed the door with a soft click that sounded too much like a lock. "But you need it anyway." "Stop. Just stop with the cryptic bullshit. I'm not some damsel in your noir film. I'm a nurse who walked through the wrong door and wants to forget it happened." He moved to the window, hands in his pockets, silhouetted against the city lights. For a moment, he looked almost human. Almost tired. "I wish you could forget. I wish I could let you." "Then let me." He turned. The light caught his face differently now, showed lines I hadn't noticed before. Exhaustion that matched my own. "I'm not watching you, Emma. I'm making sure you're not watched by people who matter." "What does that even—" He pulled something from his jacket. A photograph, slid it across the marble counter between us. It was me, leaving the hospital. Yesterday's scrubs, yesterday's ponytail, yesterday's bone-deep weariness written across my face. Someone had circled me in red ink. Not just circled, traced. Over and over until the pen had nearly torn through the paper. My hands started shaking. "Turn it over," he said quietly. 2 words on the back, printed in blocky capitals. Wrong place. The room tilted. I grabbed the counter. "I don't understand. 3 nights ago, you knocked on my door the same night someone leaked my location to people who've wanted me dead for 5 years. You weren't supposed to exist in that moment. Now they think you were chosen as a message. That I'm using you, or that you're using me, but I'm not. I know that. They don't. And until I find out who leaked the information, until I find out what they want, you're a target they think matters." I looked at the photograph again, at my own face, circled in red like a bullseye. Why me? The question came out broken. Why does walking through the wrong door at the wrong time make me matter? He crossed the space between us, stood close enough that I could see the variations of gray in his eyes, the way they held something that might have been regret. Because in my world, coincidences don't exist, only opportunities. And a woman appearing at my door the exact night my security is compromised. That's either extraordinary luck or extraordinary planning. They can't decide which, so they're watching you to figure it out. "And you? What do you think?" "I think..." He reached out slowly, telegraphing the movement like approaching a frightened animal, and took the photograph from my shaking hands. "I think you're exactly what you appear to be. Someone in the wrong place at the wrong time, which makes you the most dangerous kind of innocent." I should call the police. Something flickered in his expression. Not quite pity, closer to understanding. "You could. They'd file a report. Maybe send a car past your building once a night for a week. Then you'd be alone with whoever left this. And Emma, He set the photograph face down on the counter. The people who did this own half the cops in this city. The fear I'd been holding back crashed over me then. My knees went weak. I sat down hard on one of his pristine bar stools and tried to remember how to breathe. The hospital had taught me how to handle medical emergencies. No one teaches you how to handle becoming someone's message. He poured water into a glass, set it in front of me, waited. What do I do? I hated how small my voice sounded. You let me keep you alive until I end this. And then what? You just go back to ignoring the nurse in 4B? If that's what you want. I drank the water. It tasted expensive. Everything in this apartment probably did. I don't know what I want. I just know I didn't ask for this. Neither did I, he said, and something in his voice made me look up. But here we are anyway. A knock at the door shattered the moment. 3 sharp raps. He moved faster than should have been possible, gun in his hand again, positioning himself between me and the door. Stay quiet, he mouthed. Another knock. Then a voice. Male, with an accent I couldn't place. Carrera, we know she's in there. You have something that belongs to us. We'd like it back. My heart stopped. He looked at me, and in his eyes I saw the confirmation I didn't want. They weren't talking about information. They were talking about me. Because you knocked on my door the same night someone leaked my location, Dominic said again, his voice barely above a whisper. You weren't supposed to exist. Now they think you were chosen as a message. The voice outside the door didn't come again. Just silence, thick and suffocating, pressing against the penthouse walls like something alive. Dominic stood frozen between me and that door, gun steady in his hand, listening to something I couldn't hear. Then, footsteps, retreating, the elevator chiming open and closed. Gone, but not really gone. Never really gone. He lowered the gun slowly, turned to face me. I was still sitting on that bar stool, still holding an empty water glass, still trying to understand how my life had become this in the span of 72 hours. Pack a bag, he said. You're not staying here tonight. I'm not going anywhere with you. Then you're signing your own death warrant, your choice. He said it without drama, without trying to scare me, which somehow made it worse, made it real. I have a shift tomorrow. I have patients who will have a different nurse, because you'll be dead. The glass slipped from my hand, shattered against the marble. Neither of us moved. I need my life. My voice cracked. I need my job, my apartment, my routine. I need normal. Normal died the moment you walked through my door. He was right. I hated that he was right. But I went back to 4B anyway, locked the door, didn't pack a bag, went to work the next morning because the alternative was admitting that everything I'd built, the careful, controlled life I'd constructed after Marcus, after the restraining order, after learning that love could wear your face down until you couldn't recognize yourself, could be taken away by strangers who thought I mattered to a man I barely knew. The hospital felt safe, sterile, familiar. I threw myself into work, into the rhythm of vitals and medication schedules and the controlled chaos of keeping people alive. My patient in bed 3 needed another round of antibiotics. The woman in bed 7 finally smiled at her daughter. Normal? This was normal. Until I walked to my car at midnight and found them waiting. 2 men, not large, not obviously threatening, just there, leaning against my sedan like they had every right to be. One wore a suit that almost fit. The other had kind eyes. That's what I noticed first. How kind his eyes looked. How wrong that was. Emma Clark, the kind-eyed one, said, "We need to talk." I stopped 10 feet away, close enough to hear, far enough to run. I don't know you, but we know you. We know you work doubles on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We know you grew up in Portland. We know your mother's name was Sarah and she died when you were 16. We know about the restraining order. We know about the student loans. We know everything. My skin went ice cold. They'd said my mother's name, her real name, the one I never used, never spoke about, never. What do you want? To give you a message for your boss. I don't have a boss. I'm a nurse. You have Carrera. Tell him the debt comes due. Tell him we're calling it in. Tell him, the kind-eyed man smiled, and it was the most horrible thing I'd ever seen. We're starting with the things he thinks he can protect. Then they left, just walked away, didn't touch me, didn't threaten me, didn't need to. I stood in that parking garage for 5 minutes, 10, 15, until the security guard asked if I was okay. I lied, said I was fine. Drove home with my hands shaking so badly I nearly ran 2 red lights. Dominic was waiting in my apartment. I should have been shocked, should have asked how he got in. But I was too tired for shock, too hollowed out. They found me at the hospital, I said, setting down my keys with fingers that didn't feel like mine. They knew my mother's name. His expression darkened into something that made me understand why people feared him. What did they say? I told him. Every word. Watched him absorb it, process it, transform it into strategy. When I finished, he pulled out his phone, typed something, put it away. Pack a bag. Now. Not a request. This time, I didn't argue. 20 minutes later, we were in his car, something black and expensive that moved through the city like a shark through water. He drove in silence, taking turns that seemed random until I realized we were doubling back, checking for tails, moving through the city like someone who'd spent a lifetime staying alive. We ended up at a building in the financial district, all glass and steel and the kind of luxury that didn't advertise itself. His penthouse there made the other one look modest, floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped around 3 sides. The city spread below us like a promise or a threat. "This is what protection looks like," he said, setting down my hastily packed duffel. "You see too much of this world. You can't unsee it." I walked to the window, pressed my palm against the glass. 47 stories up. The people below looked like ideas of people. Abstract. Unreal. How long have you lived like this? Like what? Looking down on everything. Separate from it. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he moved to the kitchen, all marble and chrome and appliances I didn't recognize, and started making tea. Earl Grey. He prepared it exactly the way I made it at the hospital. 2 much milk, 1 sugar, steeped for exactly 3 minutes. "How do you know?" I started. "I know everything about you," he said, setting the mug in front of me. "It's my job to know." I wrapped my hands around the warmth. He'd given me my mother's favorite mug design without knowing it. Or maybe he did know. Maybe he knew everything. "Why are you really helping me?" He sat across from me. For the first time since I'd met him, he looked uncertain, vulnerable, human. "Because 3 months ago, someone took a photograph of you outside that hospital. Someone who works for the people hunting me. And I need to know why you were noticed before I was, why they saw you first." He slid a photograph across the table. Not the recent one with the red circles. This one was older, grainy, surveillance quality. It showed me outside the hospital emergency entrance, talking to someone I barely remembered, a patient's family member, no one important, except the man I was talking to was circled in blue ink. And beneath the photo, a name, Marcus Webb, my ex-boyfriend, the one with the restraining order, the one I'd spent 4 years forgetting. "No," I whispered. "No, that's not. He's been working for the Volkov family for 6 months. Low level, running errands. But he mentioned you. Told them about the nurse who got away. The one who filed a restraining order and disappeared into her new life. And Emma," Dominic's voice went soft, dangerous. "In my world, people don't mention names without reason. They marked you before they marked me." The tea turned cold in my hands. The room spun. "Because you've already been watched," Dominic said. "And I need to know why." Marcus Webb. The name sat in my mouth like poison. I hadn't spoken it in 4 years. Hadn't let myself think it. Had trained myself to flinch past the memory whenever it surfaced. The way you learn to step over a crack in the sidewalk. Automatic. Necessary. Survival. Now Dominic was laying out photographs like tarot cards, and everyone showed a different version of my past I thought I'd buried deep enough to forget. "This was taken outside your old apartment, 2 months before you filed the restraining order. Me, younger, thinner. That hollow look in my eyes I'd pretended was just exhaustion from nursing school. This one is from the courthouse, the day the order went through. Me in the same scrubs I'd worn to clinical rotation, because I couldn't afford to miss a day even for my own protection. And this," he slid the last photo across, "is from 6 weeks ago, outside the hospital. You don't see him, but he's there." I looked closer. In the background, barely visible near a parked van, A man's profile. Older now, harder, but unmistakably Marcus. The tea came back up. I barely made it to the bathroom. When I emerged, Dominic had cleaned everything away, the photos, the evidence of my past. He'd even made fresh tea, set it on the coffee table next to a blanket he'd pulled from somewhere. The gesture was so unexpectedly gentle it made my chest ache. "I need you to tell me about him," Dominic said. "Not because I want to hurt you, because I need to understand what they're using you for." I sat on the edge of the couch, wrapped the blanket around myself, even though the penthouse wasn't cold. Some chills come from inside. We dated for 2 years. Met at a party someone from my study group threw. He was charming, attentive, made me feel like I was the only person in every room, until you weren't anymore. I nodded. The words wouldn't come. They never did, not easily. Dominic waited, didn't push, just sat in that patient silence that made space for truth. He started small, asking where I'd been, who I'd talked to, checking my phone while I slept. Then it got bigger, showing up at the hospital, following me to class. I thought it was love, thought it meant he cared. By the time I realized it was control, I was so tangled up I couldn't see the edges of myself anymore. "Did he hurt you?" The question was soft, clinical, but his hands were clenched so tight on his knees, his knuckles had gone white. "Yes, not at first. Not until I tried to leave. And when you did leave, he said he'd find me, that I could run anywhere and he'd always know where I was, that I belonged to him and no restraining order would change that." Dominic stood abruptly, walked to the window, stood with his back to me. The city lights cast shadows across his shoulders. When he spoke again, his voice was different, rougher. "4 years ago, you disappeared from his life, changed your apartment, changed your routine, but you kept the same job, same hospital. I couldn't afford to start over completely. The nursing program, the loans, everything was tied to that hospital. I thought if I was careful, you were careful. You survived. That's not weakness, Emma. That's why you're still standing." Something in my chest cracked open. No one had ever said that to me. Not the therapist I'd seen twice before the copays became impossible. Not the friends who'd drifted away because I was too heavy with secrets to carry. No one had ever told me that survival counted as strength. "But Marcus found you anyway," Dominic continued. "And 6 months ago, he started working for the Volkov family. Small jobs, running numbers, moving packages, until he mentioned you. Told them about the nurse who got away, about how you'd humiliated him, ruined his life, destroyed his reputation. I know, but that's his story, and the Volkovs are always looking for leverage. They've been watching you since then, waiting to see if you mattered. When you walked through my door, they decided you did. They think I'm using you as an asset, or that you're a vulnerability they can exploit." I pulled the blanket tighter. The tea had gone cold again. I didn't care. "So what happens now?" Dominic turned from the window. In the city glow, his face was half shadow, half light, beautiful and terrible all at once. "Now we set terms. You stay here until this is resolved. I keep you alive. In exchange, you tell me everything you know about Marcus. Every place he took you, every person he knew, every habit he had. I'll use it to find him before they use him to destroy us both. Us. You're not in this alone anymore, whether you want to be or not." It should have felt like another cage. Another man telling me what I could and couldn't do, where I could and couldn't go. But something in Dominic's eyes was different from Marcus's possessive hunger. This was protection, not ownership. Strategy, not control. "I need rules," I said. "If I'm staying here, giving up my life, letting you into every corner of my past, I need to know the boundaries." He moved to the couch, sat at the other end, careful to leave space between us. "I have 3 rules. You tell me everywhere you go. You don't contact anyone from your past without clearance, and you don't ask about my work. What I do to keep you safe, you don't want to know." The last rule stung, but I understood it, was almost grateful for it. "I have 1 rule," I said. "You don't own me. This is temporary. When it's over, I get my life back. And you let me walk away." Something flickered across his face, too quick to read. He extended his hand. "Deal." I shook it. His palm was warm, calloused in unexpected places, the hand of someone who'd built things and broken them. We held on a beat too long. Then he pulled back, stood, gave me space to breathe. There are 3 bedrooms. Take whichever one you want. I'll have your things brought over tomorrow. I can get my own. No, you can't. They'll be watching your building, waiting to see if you come back. The reality settled over me like sediment in water. Slow, heavy, final. That night, I chose the bedroom farthest from his. Locked the door even though I knew locks meant nothing to a man like him. Lay in sheets that smelled like expensive detergent and tried to sleep. Around 3 a.m., I heard footsteps. Pacing. Back and forth across the living room. Restless energy that couldn't be contained. I opened my door quietly, padded down the hall in bare feet. Dominic stood at the window, shirt unbuttoned, looking at something I couldn't see. Maybe the city, maybe his own reflection. When he noticed me, he didn't startle. Can't sleep, I offered. Never could. Is that why you pace? Among other reasons. I moved closer. Stood beside him at the window. Up close, I could see the scar on his collarbone again. Without thinking, I reached out, touched it with one finger. Who did that? His jaw tightened. For a moment, I thought he'd pull away. Instead, he met my eyes in the reflection. Someone I trusted. Did they regret it? Eventually. The word hung between us, heavy with implication. I should have been afraid. Should have seen the violence in that response and run. But all I saw was a man who'd been betrayed and learned to protect himself the only way the world had taught him. I'm sorry, I whispered. For what? For whatever made you think trust is dangerous. He turned then, looked at me directly, and in his eyes I saw something break open. Just for a second, just enough. You should go back to bed. So should you. I don't sleep, Emma. Haven't in years. Then I'll stay up with you. We stood there at the window until dawn started bleeding across the skyline. Didn't talk much. Didn't need to. Just existed in the same space. 2 people who understood that sometimes survival means staying awake, staying vigilant, never letting your guard down long enough for the past to catch you. When morning finally came, Dominic made coffee. I didn't ask how he knew I took it black with too much sugar. Some things I was learning to accept. He set the mug in front of me, then slid a file across the counter. Thick, official looking. My name on the tab. What is this? Everything I know about you. I thought you should see what they see. I opened it. My life and documents, birth certificate, school records, nursing license, the restraining order, and buried in the middle, something that made my blood freeze. Marcus Webb's current address, phone number, work schedule, a list of known associates, and at the bottom, handwritten in Dominic's precise script, active threat, connected to Volkov family, last known contact with subject, 6 weeks prior. Tell me about him, Dominic said quietly, because his name just appeared on a list of people working for the Volkov family, and Emma, I need to know why they're using your past against my future. I told Dominic everything. Not because I wanted to, but because the alternative was watching Marcus destroy another piece of my life from the shadows, and I was done being haunted by a man who'd already taken too much. We sat at his dining table, solid mahogany that probably cost more than my car, and I excavated memories I'd spent 4 years burying. The way Marcus tracked my cycle to know when I'd be emotional, vulnerable, how he'd isolate me slowly, convincing me my friends didn't understand us, that my family was toxic, that he was the only one who truly saw me. The night I finally left, when he'd grabbed my wrist so hard it fractured and told me I'd never be free of him. Dominic listened without interruption, took notes in a leather journal with handwriting so precise it looked typed. When I finished, my throat raw from talking, he set down his pen and looked at me with an expression I couldn't name. You didn't just survive him, you escaped him. Do you understand the difference? I ran away. That's not exactly heroic. You rebuilt yourself. Alone. That's the definition of heroic. The words landed somewhere deep. I wanted to believe them. Wanted to believe that the girl who'd fled in the middle of the night with a fractured wrist and $200 had become someone stronger, not just someone better at hiding. But I made a mistake, I said. I stayed at the same hospital. Made it easy for him to find me. You made a choice based on survival. Student loans, career stability, health insurance. Those aren't luxuries when you're rebuilding from nothing. You did what you had to do. He's the one who chose to keep hunting. Dominic's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his expression hardening into something glacial. What? Marcus just made contact with the Volkov family. He's offering them something. What could he possibly... He's telling them he can deliver you. That you'll come if he asks because you still care about him, still feel guilty for leaving. He's using your compassion as a weapon. Nausea rolled through me. Even now, Marcus understood exactly which strings to pull, exactly how to make me doubt myself. I'm not going anywhere near him. I know, but they don't, and that's the problem. Dominic stood, paced to the window. They think Marcus has leverage. They think he can manipulate you into giving them access to me, into becoming a liability I'll have to eliminate. The word eliminate hung in the air like smoke. You wouldn't know, but they don't know that. And until they do, you're valuable to them alive. The moment Marcus proves he can't control you, they'll decide you're more useful dead. A message to me, proof they can reach anyone I protect. I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly cold, despite the morning sun streaming through the windows. So what do? We make Marcus irrelevant. We find out what he's told them, who he's connected to, and we dismantle his credibility before he can use you as currency. He said it so calmly, like dismantling a person was just another item on a to-do list. I should have been horrified. Should have recognized the danger in not loving, trusting, a man who spoke about destruction with the same tone other people used to discuss grocery shopping. But all I felt was a dark, shameful relief. Someone was finally going to make Marcus stop. I don't want to know the details, I said quietly. Your third rule, remember? I don't ask about your work. This isn't work anymore. This is personal. The distinction mattered to him. I could see it in the tension of his shoulders, the way his hands flexed like he was already planning violence. Don't do anything you can't take back, I said. Everything I do, I can't take back. That's the point. His phone buzzed again, then again. A rapid succession that made his jaw tighten. He answered in Russian, sharp syllables I couldn't understand but recognized as commands. When he hung up, something in his expression had shifted. I need to leave for a few hours. Don't answer the door. Don't go near the windows. I know. Stay invisible. He moved closer, stopped just within reach. This close, I could see exhaustion in the fine lines around his eyes, could smell cedar and something sharper. Fear, maybe, or fury. I'm going to end this, he said, but I need you to trust that I'll do it the right way. What's the right way? The way that keeps you alive and lets me sleep at night. He left. The penthouse felt enormous without him. I tried to distract myself. Read, watch television, attempted to study for boards I wouldn't be taking anytime soon. Nothing worked. My mind kept circling back to Marcus, to the restraining order that was supposed to protect me, to 4 years of looking over my shoulder, waiting for him to appear. Around noon, my phone rang. Unknown number. I knew better. Knew I should ignore it, delete it, tell Dominic immediately. I answered anyway. Hello, Emma. Marcus's voice, exactly as I remembered. Smooth, confident, the voice that used to read me poetry in bed and scream obscenities when I burned dinner. How did you get this number? I've always had it. Been watching you for a while now. You look good. Tired, but good. The nursing life suits you. My hands started shaking. The restraining order expired last year. Did you forget? I didn't. Counted down every day. I hadn't forgotten. Had known the expiration date was coming and done nothing because part of me hoped he'd moved on, found someone else to obsess over, disappeared into whatever life he'd built without me. What do you want? To talk. To explain? You left so suddenly, Emma. Didn't give me a chance to apologize, to show you I'd changed. You fractured my wrist. I was upset. You were leaving. You have to understand. I loved you so much it made me crazy. The logic was so familiar it made me nauseous. The way he twisted love into excuse made his violence my responsibility. I'm hanging up. Wait, please. I heard you're involved with someone dangerous. I'm worried about you, Em. I know we have history, but I still care. If you're in trouble, if he's hurting you, I can help. I have friends now, resources. We can protect you. The manipulation was so transparent it should have been laughable. Instead, it was terrifying, because part of me, the part that remembered loving him before understanding what his love cost, wanted to believe he meant it. Goodbye, Marcus. The Volkov family knows where you are. They're coming for you, Emma, tonight. And your new boyfriend. He can't stop them. But I can make a deal. Keep you safe. All you have to do is meet me. One conversation. Then you never have to see me again. Why would you help me? Because I never stopped loving you. Because I've spent 4 years becoming someone worthy of you. Because you deserve better than a man who kills people for a living. The line went dead. I sat there holding my phone, my entire body shaking. Marcus had always known exactly what to say to make me doubt myself, to make his version of reality seem more credible than my own experience. But this time, I heard something different in his voice. Desperation. Fear. He wasn't trying to save me. He was trying to save himself. And I was the currency he planned to trade. I called Dominic. No answer. Called again. Voicemail. Texted. Marcus contacted me. Said the Volkovs are coming tonight. Nothing. No response. The penthouse felt like a cage. At 6 p.m., my phone buzzed. Not Dominic. A video file from an unknown sender. My finger hovered over delete. Then I opened it. The video was grainy, poorly lit. But I recognized the setting immediately. My old apartment. 4 years ago. The footage showed me and Marcus arguing, me crying, begging him to leave me alone, to let me go. I remembered that night. The night before I filed the restraining order. The night I realized staying meant dying, slowly or quickly, but dying either way. But the video had been edited, cut to make it look like I was the aggressor, like I was hitting him, screaming at him, threatening him. It was a lie built from pieces of truth, and it was convincing. The video cut to black. Then text appeared. Carrera's new pet has history. Unstable, violent. How much is she worth to you? My phone rang. This time, Dominic answered. I saw the video. His voice was ice. It's a fabrication. I know that. But they'll use it anyway. Marcus is playing both sides. Telling the Volkovs he can deliver you. Telling you he can save you. Manipulating everyone into a position where you become the prize and he becomes the broker. What do? Nothing. You stay there. You wait. I'm handling this. Dominic, trust me. Emma, please. The line cut to static, then a different voice. Marcus again. Hello, Emma. Miss me? Let's talk about how this ends. You have 48 hours to meet me, alone, or I send that video everywhere. Your hospital, your nursing board, every news station in the city. I'll destroy your career and your reputation, and then I'll let the Volkovs decide what to do with you. Or, he paused for effect, always theatrical. Or you come back to me, where you belong, and I make all of this disappear. 48 hours. Choose wisely. The 48 hours felt like 48 years. I existed in Dominic's penthouse like a ghost haunting her own life, moving from room to room without purpose, checking my phone obsessively for messages that never came. Dominic had vanished into whatever dark machinery powered his world, leaving me with silence and the terrible weight of Marcus's ultimatum. On the second morning, I woke to voices, low, urgent, speaking languages I didn't understand. I crept down the hallway in my borrowed pajamas. Dominic had sent someone to collect clothes from my apartment, impersonal items that felt like they belonged to a different woman entirely, and found the penthouse transformed into a war room. Men in expensive suits crowded around the dining table, laptops open, documents spread like battle plans. Dominic stood at the center, dressed in black, his face carved from stone. When he saw me, something flickered in his expression. Not quite softness, more like regret that I had to witness this. Emma, he said, go back to your room. It's my life you're planning. I deserve to know. The men exchanged glances. One of them, older with silver at his temples, said something in Italian. Dominic's response was sharp, final. The men gathered their materials and filed out, leaving us alone in the wreckage of whatever strategy they'd been constructing. Coffee? He asked, like we were still pretending it normal. Answers. He poured 2 cups anyway. Set mine down with that same careful precision, like every gesture mattered, like every movement was calculated 3 steps ahead. I'd learned this about him over the past days. Nothing was accidental. Everything was choice. Marcus made his move last night. Dominic said. He contacted the Volkovs directly, offered to deliver you in exchange for protection and a substantial amount of money. Enough to disappear, start over somewhere they'd never find him. He's afraid of you. He should be. The words should have frightened me, should have reminded me that I was standing in a kitchen with a man who spoke about violence like other people discuss the weather. But all I felt was a dark satisfaction that Marcus finally understood what it meant to be hunted. What did you do? I made sure he understood that you're not his to trade, that any deal involving you goes through me, that if he wants to negotiate, he negotiates with someone who actually has the authority to make promises. And the video? Being handled. I have people who specialize in digital forensics. They're creating a file that shows the manipulation, timestamps that prove the editing, metadata that will destroy his credibility. By the time they're finished, that video won't just be inadmissible, it'll be evidence of his fraud. He said it so calmly, like reconstructing reality was just another service he could purchase. I sat down heavily, gripping the coffee mug like an anchor. You're fighting dirty. I'm fighting to win. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I'm sitting, you're using the same tactics they are. Lies, manipulation, buying people to make problems disappear. Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. He set down his cup with deliberate control. You want the truth, Emma? The real truth about what I'm doing to keep you alive? Fine. I've frozen Marcus's bank accounts. All of them. Every dollar he earned working for the Volkovs is gone. I've made it clear to everyone in his network that associating with him is now a liability. His landlord received 6 months of back rent he doesn't actually owe, paid by an anonymous source, with a note suggesting Marcus might be involved in illegal activities. The police have received anonymous tips about his connection to organized crime. And the Volkovs, Dominic's voice dropped lower, colder. I've made them an offer they can't refuse. One that makes Marcus worthless to them. What kind of offer? The kind where I give them something they want more than they want to hurt me. The kind where Marcus becomes collateral damage in a much larger negotiation. The kind that keeps you safe and turns him into exactly what he's always been. Irrelevant. I stood, paced to the window, pressed my forehead against the cold glass. Below, the city woke to another ordinary day. People going to work, drinking coffee, living lives that didn't require war rooms and strategy sessions and the casual destruction of human beings. I didn't ask you to destroy him. You didn't have to. You asked me to keep you alive. This is what that looks like. This is what power looks like. And it's terrifying. Yes, he said simply, it is. I turned to face him. He'd moved closer without me noticing, stood within reach but didn't touch. Just gave me space to process, to rage, to reconcile the man who made my coffee exactly right with the man who could erase someone's entire existence with a few phone calls. The people in that warehouse, I said. The ones in the news. The fire. Were they innocent? His jaw tightened. For a moment, I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, I don't know. Probably. Some of them. The Volkovs use legitimate businesses as fronts. Warehouses, shipping companies, restaurants. The people working there don't always know what they're part of. When we burned that warehouse, we were burning evidence of human trafficking. Shipments of women and children being moved through the port. But yes, there were employees there. Night shift workers, security guards, people just trying to make a living. How many? 2 confirmed dead, 3 injured. The number sat between us like something physical. 2 people, 2 lives, 2 families now destroyed because of a war I didn't understand between men I'd never met. And you can live with that? No, his voice cracked slightly. I can't. But I can live with it better than I can live with knowing I let the trafficking continue. Better than I can live with knowing I chose perfect morality over imperfect justice. The world doesn't give you clean choices, Emma. It gives you terrible options and worse alternatives, and you make the decision you can survive making. I wanted to hate him, wanted to see a monster. But all I saw was a man carrying the weight of impossible choices, A man who'd calculated the cost of every action and still moved forward because stopping meant letting something worse happen. "Show me," I said. "Show me what you're really doing. No more protection, no more keeping me safe from the truth. If I'm part of this world now, if I'm the reason Marcus is being destroyed and warehouses are burning and people are dying, then I deserve to see it. All of it. Emma, show me." He studied me for a long moment. Then he nodded, pulled out his phone, made a call in Italian. 20 minutes later, we were in his car, driving to a part of the city I'd never been to. Industrial. Abandoned. The kind of place where screams wouldn't carry. The building was nondescript. Gray concrete, broken windows, graffiti marking territory claimed and lost. Dominic led me inside, past men who nodded at him with deference that looked like fear. We took stairs down into a basement that smelled like mold and something darker. Marcus was there. He sat in a metal chair, hands zip-tied behind his back, one eye swollen shut, lips split. When he saw me, something like hope flickered across his face. Then he saw Dominic behind me, and the hope died. "Emma." His voice was thick, distorted by damage. "Thank God. Tell him. Tell him I was trying to protect you. Tell him the Volkovs forced me, that I didn't have a choice." I stood there looking at the man who'd haunted me for 4 years, the man who'd fractured my wrist and my sense of safety and my ability to trust my own judgment. He looked smaller now. Pathetic. Human in the worst possible way. "You always had a choice," I said quietly. "Every time you hit me, followed me, manipulated me, used my compassion as a weapon, those were choices. And you chose wrong every single time. I loved you. No, you loved the idea of owning me. There's a difference." Dominic moved past me, crouched in front of Marcus with that same careful control he brought to everything. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell the Volkovs that Emma is off limits, that you lied about having access to her, that you have nothing to offer them. Then you're going to disappear. Mexico, Canada, I don't care. But if I ever hear your name again, if you ever come within 100 miles of this city, if you ever so much as think about contacting her," Dominic's voice dropped to something that barely qualified as human, "I will make what happened to that warehouse look like mercy." Marcus nodded frantically, blood from his lip dripping onto his shirt. "Good." Dominic stood. "Someone will drive you to the airport. You have a ticket to Mexico City and $5,000. Use it wisely. It's the last kindness you'll ever receive from me." We left, climbed back into daylight. I stood on the sidewalk gulping air that tasted like freedom and complicity all at once. "That's what protection looks like," Dominic said. "That's the price of keeping you safe." "Still want me to continue?" I looked at him. Really looked. Saw the exhaustion in his eyes, the weight he carried, the violence he'd learned to wield with precision because the alternative was chaos. Saw a man who'd given me a choice even when he didn't have to. "Yes," I whispered, "but not just because I need protection anymore. Because I need to understand. Need to know if I can live in a world where justice looks like this." His phone rang before he could respond. He answered, listened, his expression darkening into something I'd learned to recognize as catastrophic. "What?" I asked. "The police just issued a warrant for my arrest. Someone provided evidence linking me to the warehouse fire. Eyewitness testimony, financial records, video footage." His eyes met mine. "They have documentation proving I was there, but I wasn't. Emma, I was here, with you." The realization hit like ice water. Marcus hadn't been working alone. Someone inside Dominic's organization had been feeding information to the police. Someone close enough to fabricate evidence convincing enough to destroy him. Who would? I don't know. But whoever it is knows exactly when I was here protecting you instead of managing my business. Knows my schedule, my blind spots, the places where you've made me vulnerable. The words hung between us, heavy with accusation and something else. Something that felt dangerously close to confession. "The evidence now points to you," I said slowly. "And I'm the only one who can clear your name. Because I was with you, I'm your alibi." "Yes. Or I could say nothing. Let the police arrest you. Walk away from all of this. Get my life back." He didn't flinch, didn't beg, just looked at me with those slate gray eyes and waited for me to choose who I wanted to be. The question wasn't really about him anymore. It was about me. About whether I could live with being the kind of person who walked away when someone had risked everything to keep me safe. About whether survival meant staying clean or getting my hands dirty alongside someone who'd already shown me the true cost of protection. If I do this, I said, if I give you an alibi, if I lie to the police, if I make myself complicit in everything you've done, there's no going back. I become part of your world, part of this, forever. I know, and you'd let me make that choice, even knowing what it costs, especially knowing what it costs, because you deserve to choose who you become, Emma. Even if that choice destroys us both. I didn't give Dominic an answer that night. Couldn't. The weight of the decision was too heavy to carry in a single moment, too permanent to rush into with fear as my compass. Instead, I went back to the penthouse, locked myself in the guest room, and stared at the ceiling until dawn bled through the windows and the city woke to another day that wouldn't wait for me to figure out who I wanted to be. By morning, Dominic was gone. A note on the kitchen counter in his precise handwriting. Meeting with lawyers. Don't answer the door. The coffee maker was preset to brew at 7 a.m. He'd remembered my schedule even now, even while his world collapsed around the evidence someone had manufactured to destroy him. I drank the coffee. Hated that it was perfect. Hated that even in crisis, he'd thought about this small gesture of care. Hated that I was falling in love with a man whose hands were stained with choices I couldn't reconcile, whose protection came wrapped in violence I couldn't unsee. Love. The word had crept into my thoughts without permission, settled there like sediment, undeniable and terrifying. I'd sworn after Marcus that I'd never let another man become necessary to my survival. And here I was, holding the power to save or destroy someone who'd become exactly that. Necessary in ways that had nothing to do with safety and everything to do with being seen completely, darkness and light, and chosen anyway. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. The police want to question you. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. District Attorney's Office. Come alone or they'll issue a warrant. My hands shook. They were moving faster than I'd expected. Tightening the noose before I could decide whether to cut it or let it hang, I called Dominic. He answered on the first ring. They want to question me tomorrow. I know. My lawyer just informed me. Emma, you don't have to do this. You can tell them the truth. That you don't know where I was. That we barely know each other. That you walked through the wrong door and got caught in someone else's war. Is that what you want me to do? Silence. Long enough that I could hear him breathing, could imagine him standing somewhere with that careful stillness he wore like armor. I want you to be free, whatever that looks like. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I can give you without making you responsible for my choices. You've spent enough of your life carrying someone else's decisions, Emma. I won't add mine to that weight. Something in my chest cracked open. Marcus had always told me what to do, what to think, what to feel. Had made his needs my responsibility and called it love. Dominic was offering me something infinitely more terrifying, complete autonomy, the freedom to choose, even if that choice destroyed him. I need to think, I said. Take whatever time you need. But Emma, his voice softened. Whatever you decide, it doesn't change what you've meant to me. You walked through the wrong door and reminded me that not everyone in this world is a transaction. Some people are just miracles wrapped in terrible timing. He hung up before I could respond, left me holding those words like fragile things that might shatter if I examined them too closely. I spent the day doing what nurses do when the world feels unmanageable. I made lists, pros and cons, facts versus feelings, the evidence of who Dominic was versus who I needed him to be. But every list dissolved into the same truth. I'd already made my choice. Had made it the moment I watched him crouch in front of Marcus and offer mercy wrapped in threat. Had made it when he handed me my coffee every morning, and never asked for anything in return except the chance to keep me alive. That evening, I did something reckless. Something Dominic would have forbidden if he'd known. I left the penthouse, used the service elevator he'd shown me for emergencies, walked out through the loading dock, caught a cab to an address I'd found buried in one of the files he'd left open on his laptop. A restaurant in Little Italy. Small, family-owned, the kind of place that had been there for generations and would be there for generations more. Inside, I found the man I was looking for. Anthony Greco, Dominic's oldest friend, his second in command, the name that appeared in every document, every strategic meeting, every decision that mattered. He looked up from his espresso when I approached his table. Didn't seem surprised to see me. Maybe in this world, nothing was surprising anymore. Miss Clark, you're either very brave or very stupid to be here. Probably both. Can I sit? He gestured to the empty chair. I sat, feeling the weight of eyes on us, other patrons, men who worked for him, people who would report this meeting back to Dominic before I even made it home. Dominic doesn't know you're here, Anthony said. Not a question. No. Good. That means you're smarter than you look. What do you want? To understand. The warehouse fire, the evidence against Dominic, the timing. Someone inside his organization is destroying him, and I need to know who benefits. Anthony's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Calculation, assessment, the look of a man deciding how much truth was safe to share. You think I'm going to confess to you? A woman he's known for 2 weeks? A nurse who walked through the wrong door and decided to play detective? I think you're the only person who's been in every meeting, every decision, every conversation about me since this started. I think you know exactly who's betraying him. And I think, I leaned forward, you're either part of it or you're protecting whoever is. Careful, Miss Clark. Accusations like that get people hurt. I'm already hurt. We all are. But I'm trying to stop more people from dying because someone's playing chess with our lives. He studied me for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone, slid it across the table. On the screen was a photograph, financial records, offshore accounts, communications with the Volkov family. And at the center of it all, a name I recognized from the files, Vincent Marchetti, one of Dominic's most trusted advisors. Vincent has been selling information for 6 months, since before you appeared. Dominic's movements, his business dealings, his vulnerabilities. The Volkovs pay well for that kind of intelligence. When you walked through that door, Vincent saw an opportunity, a way to make Dominic look distracted, emotional, weak. He's been feeding the police evidence, creating a narrative where Dominic is so obsessed with you that he's making mistakes, getting sloppy. And you know this how? Because I've been tracking Vincent for 3 months, waiting for enough evidence to prove it to Dominic without starting a war inside the organization. But then the warehouse fire happened, and Vincent accelerated his timeline. He's trying to get Dominic arrested before anyone discovers his betrayal. Why are you telling me this? Anthony leaned back, finished his espresso with the casual grace of someone who'd made peace with difficult truths. Because Dominic won't listen to me. Too close to the situation. Too emotional. But he might listen to you. And because, Miss Clark, I've watched him for 20 years. Watched him build this empire with blood and strategy and the kind of cold calculation that kept him alive when everyone else died. You know what I've never seen until you. Him making coffee for someone. Remembering how they take it. Staying up all night just to make sure they don't feel alone. That's not strategy. That's something else. And men like us don't get something else very often. When we do, we protect it. The words settled over me like a benediction and a warning. I took the phone, photographed the evidence, slid it back. What do I do with this? Tomorrow, when the police question you, you tell them the truth, that you were with Dominic the night of the fire. But you also tell them to look into Vincent Marchetti. Give them enough to investigate. Once they start digging into Vincent's finances, they'll find the real conspiracy. But Emma, he caught my wrist as I stood to leave. Once you give that statement, there's no taking it back. You'll be marked, known. Every enemy Dominic has will know your face, your name, your value to him. You'll lose your anonymity, your safety, your chance at a normal life. I lost that the moment I knocked on the wrong door. No, you lost it the moment you chose not to run. There's a difference. I left before he could say anything else. Caught a cab back to the financial district. My phone heavy with evidence that could save Dominic or destroy us both. The penthouse was dark when I arrived. Empty. For a moment, I let myself imagine what it would be like to just leave. Pack a bag, catch a flight to somewhere Dominic's world couldn't reach. Start over with a new name and a clean slate. But I'd already tried running once. After Marcus, I'd built a new life from the fragments of the old one. Convinced myself that survival meant staying invisible, staying safe, never letting anyone close enough to hurt me again. And what had it gotten me? 4 years of looking over my shoulder. 4 years of coffee at counters instead of tables because sitting down meant staying, meant being seen, meant being vulnerable. I was done surviving. I wanted to live, even if living meant risk. Even if it meant choosing someone whose hands were stained with the same kind of power that had nearly destroyed me before. Because Dominic wasn't Marcus. Dominic had given me choices when he could have given me commands. Had offered me freedom when he could have offered me a cage. Had shown me his darkness and asked if I could live with it, rather than hiding it until I was too tangled up to escape. The door opened. Dominic stood in the threshold, still wearing his suit from the lawyer meetings, exhaustion carved into every line of his face. When he saw me, relief flooded his expression. "You left," he said. "I got an alert from building security. Do you have any idea how dangerous?" I went to see Anthony. He went very still. The kind of stillness that preceded either violence or heartbreak. Why? Because I needed to understand. Needed to know if saving you meant becoming complicit in something I couldn't live with. Needed to see if there was more to this story than what you'd told me. And I found proof. Vincent Marchetti has been betraying you, feeding information to the Volkovs, fabricating evidence against you, using me as a way to make you look distracted and weak. Anthony's been tracking him for months. I pulled out my phone, showed him the photographs, watched him process the information, saw the moment. Recognition turned to fury, turned to something colder and more calculated. "Vincent," he said quietly. "I trusted him. Brought him into the organization when no one else would hire him. Gave him opportunities, wealth, respect. And he's been selling me out for months. I'm sorry. Don't be. This is what my world looks like. Loyalty is temporary. Trust is currency. And everyone has a price. Not everyone." He looked at me then. Really looked. And I saw the question in his eyes before he asked it. "What are you saying, Emma?" "I'm saying that tomorrow, when the police question me, I'm going to tell them I was with you. That you couldn't have been at that warehouse because you were with me. And then I'm going to tell them to investigate Vincent. Give them enough to follow the real trail. But Dominic," I moved closer, stood within reach of someone who could destroy me or save me, and I still couldn't tell which. "If I do this, I'm choosing you. Choosing this life. Choosing to trust that the man who makes my coffee every morning is the same man who makes impossible choices in warehouses I'll never see. I need to know if that trust is misplaced. I can't promise you safety. Can't promise you clean hands or easy answers. Can't promise that my choices won't hurt innocent people caught in the crossfire. All I can promise is that I'll never lie to you about who I am or what I do. That I'll give you choices even when it kills me. That I'll protect you not because you're weak, but because losing you would break something in me I didn't know could still be broken. That's not enough for most people. Are you most people?" "No," I whispered. "I'm the woman who walked through the wrong door and decided to stay. Who watched you destroy my ex-boyfriend and felt relief instead of horror. Who knows what you're capable of and chooses you anyway. I'm either the bravest person you'll ever meet or the most broken. You're neither," he said, and his hand came up to cut my face with a gentleness that contradicted everything I knew about him. "You're just someone who understands that love doesn't mean perfection. It means seeing someone completely. Every scar, every choice, every terrible necessary thing, and saying yes anyway." He kissed me then. Soft at first, then deeper, like he was trying to memorize the taste of something he might lose. I kissed him back, pouring 4 years of loneliness and fear and desperate hope into the connection, feeling his hands tangle in my hair, feeling his heartbeat against my chest, frantic and human and alive. When we pulled apart, we were both breathing hard. The city glittered through the windows behind us, beautiful and indifferent to the choices we made in its shadow. "Tomorrow," I said, "I give my statement. Then we deal with Vincent. Then we figure out how to live in a world that knows what I mean to you. And tonight we pretend we're just two people who met at the wrong time in the wrong place and decided it was right anyway." We spent the night on the couch, wrapped in each other, talking about things that had nothing to do with warehouses or betrayal or police investigations. He told me about growing up in Brooklyn, about the uncle who taught him that power was the only protection that mattered. I told him about my mother, about nursing school, about the version of myself I'd built after Marcus and whether she was strong enough for this. When dawn came, we were still awake, still holding each other, still pretending that tomorrow wouldn't change everything. But it would. Because at 9 a.m., I walked into the district attorney's office and told them exactly where Dominic Carrera had been the night of the warehouse fire. Told them to investigate Vincent Marchetti. Gave them evidence Anthony had compiled, wrapped in the truth of my own experience. The detective, middle-aged, tired, wearing skepticism like cologne, listened without interruption. When I finished, he set down his pen and looked at me with something like pity. "Miss Clark, you understand that providing a false alibi is a felony. That if we prove you're lying to protect Mr. Carrera, you'll face charges yourself." "I understand. And I'm not lying. You're asking us to believe that a man with Dominic Carrera's resources and reputation spent the night of a major crime sitting in his penthouse with a woman he barely knows? I'm asking you to investigate Vincent Marchetti's offshore accounts and communications with the Volkov family. I'm asking you to follow the money. And I'm asking you to consider that maybe the evidence against Dominic is exactly what it looks like. Fabricated by someone with everything to gain from his arrest." The detective studied me for a long moment. Then he made a call. Spoke in low tones I couldn't hear. When he hung up, his expression had shifted from skepticism to something more complex. "We'll look into it, but Miss Clark, you should know, the moment you walked in here and gave that statement, you became part of this case. Part of his world. Every criminal organization in this city now knows your face, your name, your connection to Carrera. If you're lying, we'll prosecute you. If you're telling the truth, you've just painted a target on your back that will never disappear." "I know," I said, "and I'm choosing it anyway." I left the DA's office and walked out into sunlight that felt different, heavier, weighted with consequence. My phone buzzed. A text from Dominic. "Vincent is gone. Disappeared overnight. Either he knew the investigation was coming or someone warned him. Either way, this isn't over." I texted back, "Neither am I." Another text. This one from a number I didn't recognize. "You made your choice. Now live with it. Anthony." And finally, one more. "Unknown sender." 3 words that made my blood run cold. "Wrong choice. Emma." The voice was familiar. Marcus. He hadn't disappeared to Mexico, hadn't used the ticket or the money, had stayed close enough to watch, to wait, to remind me that ghosts don't stay buried just because you stop looking for them. I stood on the courthouse steps, the city moving around me like I was a stone in a river, and realized the truth. This wasn't the end of my story with Dominic. This was the beginning of something darker, more complex, more dangerous than I'd imagined. Because Vincent hadn't acted alone. Marcus hadn't appeared in my life by accident. And someone close enough to know everything, had orchestrated this entire catastrophe. The question wasn't whether I could survive Dominic's world anymore. The question was whether his world could survive what was coming for both of us. The text from Marcus sat on my phone like a poison I couldn't metabolize. "Wrong choice, Emma." 3 words that contained 4 years of history, a lifetime of manipulation, and the promise of violence wrapped in familiarity. I stood on those courthouse steps watching the city move around me, people with briefcases and coffee cups, people whose biggest problem was traffic or a difficult boss, people who lived in a world where choices didn't come wrapped in consequence and threat. I wasn't one of those people anymore. Maybe I never had been. My phone rang. "Dominic, where are you?" "Still at the courthouse." Marcus texted me. "He's still here, in the city." Silence. Then, low and dangerous. "Where are you exactly?" "Front steps, north side." "Don't move, I'm 3 minutes away." He hung up. I counted my heartbeats, trying to calm the adrenaline that flooded my system every time I thought about Marcus watching me, following me, inserting himself back into my life like he'd never left. 147 beats later, Dominic's car pulled up. Black, bulletproof, the kind of vehicle that announced power without needing to explain it. He got out. Didn't wait for me to come to him. Crossed the sidewalk in long strides and pulled me against his chest hard enough that I felt his heartbeat, frantic and human beneath the expensive suit. For a moment, we just stood there. 2 people holding on to each other while the world threatened to tear us apart. "He's playing with you," Dominic said against my hair. "Wants you scared. Wants you to doubt your choice. Wants you to come running back because fear is the only language he speaks fluently." I'm not running back. I'm not running anywhere. I know. That's what terrifies me. He pulled back. cupped my face with both hands, studied me with those slate gray eyes that had learned to read people the way other people read books. Vincent disappeared. Marcus is still circling. And someone inside my organization knows too much about both situations. This was coordinated, Emma, planned, which means there's a larger threat we haven't identified yet. What do? We stop reacting and start hunting. Come on. We drove to a building I'd never seen before. Not one of his penthouses or offices, but something older, hidden in a neighborhood that looked abandoned until you noticed the cameras, the security, the careful way nothing looked important enough to guard. Inside, the building had been transformed into something between a war room and a bunker. Screens covered one wall, showing surveillance footage from locations across the city. A table held weapons I couldn't name. And sitting at the center of it all was Anthony Greco, looking like he'd been there for days. She gave the statement. Anthony said without preamble, DA's office is moving on Vincent's accounts. Should have enough for a warrant by tomorrow. And Vincent? Ghost. Left the country, maybe. Or went to ground somewhere we haven't looked. But he left something behind. Anthony pulled up a file on one of the screens. Email communications, financial transfers, and at the center of it all, a pattern that made my stomach drop. Vincent hadn't been working alone. He'd been working with someone who had access to Dominic's personal security, his private schedules, his protected spaces. Someone who knew about me before I'd even walked through that wrong door. Who? I asked. Though part of me already knew. Already felt the terrible weight of understanding settling over me. Anthony looked at Dominic, a question in his eyes. Dominic nodded once, sharp and final. Vincent's partner was someone on Dominic's household staff, someone with access to his private residences, his daily routines, his security codes. Someone who'd been feeding Vincent information for months, waiting for the right opportunity to use it. And Marcus? I asked, how does he fit? Vincent recruited him 6 months ago. Found him through the Volkov family's network. Recognized his obsession with you as useful leverage. The plan was simple. Get Marcus close to you. Use him to make Dominic look distracted and emotional. Then manufacture evidence that would get Dominic arrested while making it look like his obsession with protecting you had made him careless. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. I hadn't walked through the wrong door by accident. I'd been noticed months earlier because of Marcus, had been marked as a potential weakness in Dominic's armor before I even knew his name. My entire relationship with Dominic, the protection, the growing intimacy, the choices that felt so personal and profound, had been anticipated, weaponized, turned into strategy by people who understood that the fastest way to destroy a powerful man was to give him something vulnerable to protect. So none of it was real, I said, my voice hollow. Everything that happened between us was part of someone else's plan. Dominic moved so fast I didn't see him coming, grabbed my shoulders, forced me to look at him. No, listen to me. They anticipated that I might be attracted to you, might want to protect you. But, Emma, they couldn't anticipate this. He pressed his hand over my heart. They couldn't plan for how you'd challenge me, stand up to me, make me want to be better than the violence they expected. They counted on me using you as a possession. They didn't count on me falling in love with someone who refused to be possessed. The words hung between us. Love. He'd said it. Out loud. In front of Anthony and the screens and the weapons and all the machinery of his dangerous world. You love me. Catastrophically. Inconveniently. Completely. I kissed him. Hard and desperate and full of 4 years of loneliness and 2 weeks of transformation and the terrifying realization that I loved him back. Loved him not, despite the danger, but because he'd shown me that strength didn't mean invulnerability. It meant choosing to be vulnerable with the right person anyway. When we broke apart, Anthony was studiously examining something on his phone, giving us privacy that felt like respect. So we find Vincent, I said, and we find whoever was helping him inside Dominic's organization. And we end this before Marcus or anyone else can use me as a weapon again. We? Dominic raised an eyebrow. You're not trained for this, Emma. You're a nurse. This is my life now, my choice. You said I get to choose who I become, remember? Well, I'm choosing to fight. Not because I want to be violent or because I think I can do what you do, but because I'm done being the prize everyone fights over. I want to be the person who fights back. Something shifted in his expression. Pride, maybe. Or recognition that I'd finally understood what he'd been trying to teach me all along. That survival wasn't enough. That real freedom meant claiming agency even when the world tried to make you powerless. "All right," he said. "Then we do this together. But we do it smart. Anthony, trace every communication Vincent had in the last 6 months. Find the pattern. Find the person inside my organization who gave him access." "Emma," he turned to me. "I need you to do something difficult. I need you to call Marcus." "What? Why?" "Because he wants contact. Wants to feel like he still has power over you. We give him that illusion while tracking his location, his contacts, whoever he's working with now that Vincent is gone. You keep him talking while we close the net." My hands started shaking. The thought of hearing Marcus's voice again, of pretending vulnerability while he gloated, made my skin crawl. But Dominic was right. Marcus's need for control was his weakness. His belief that I was still the frightened girl who'd run from him was the opening we needed. "Okay," I said. "Tell me what to say." For the next hour, they coached me. Anthony scripted responses designed to keep Marcus talking, to extract information without revealing that we were hunting him. Dominic set up recording equipment, traced the number Marcus had texted from, prepared to triangulate his location the moment I made contact. And I stood in the center of their war room, transforming myself back into the version of Emma Clark, who'd loved Marcus before understanding what his love cost. When we were ready, I called. He answered on the second ring. His voice was exactly as I remembered. Smooth, confident, wrapped in charm that had once made me feel special and now made me feel sick. "Emma, I knew you'd call. Couldn't help yourself. You said I made the wrong choice. I need to understand what you mean. You chose a man who'll never love you the way I did. A man who sees you as a pretty distraction, something to protect until you become inconvenient. I would have given you everything, would have built a life with you. You broke my wrist. I was hurting. You were leaving. You can't judge a man by his worst moment." The rationalization was so familiar it made me want to scream, but I kept my voice soft and uncertain, the way he'd always needed me to be. "Maybe you're right. Maybe I didn't give you enough chances. I've been thinking about that. About what you said. That Dominic is dangerous, that I'm not safe with him. You're not. He's using you, baby. I know his type. Powerful men like that. They collect beautiful things and discard them when something shinier comes along. But me, I never stopped loving you. Never will. Where are you, Marcus? If we're going to talk about this, really talk, I need to see you. Need to know you mean it. You'd do that. You'd meet me. After everything. I don't know. Maybe, if you can prove you've changed. If you can show me you're not the man who hurt me anymore." I could hear him breathing, calculating, trying to decide if this was real or a trap. Dominic had his hand on my shoulder, steady and grounding, reminding me I wasn't alone in this performance. "There's a place," Marcus said finally. "Warehouse district, near the port. Old shipping facility on Pier 17. Come alone. Tomorrow night, 10 p.m. We'll talk, really talk. And Emma, don't bring your new boyfriend. This is between us. Always has been." "I'll be there," I whispered, making my voice shake just enough to sound genuine. "I knew you would. I knew you still loved me. We're going to fix this, baby. Fix us. Fix everything." He hung up. I stood there holding the phone, feeling dirty in a way no shower could clean. Dominic pulled me against him immediately, his arms tight and secure. "You did perfectly." Anthony's tracing the location now. He actually believes I'd go to him. After everything. He actually thinks his version of love is something I'd want back. Men like Marcus can't comprehend rejection. Can't understand that love isn't ownership. They see the world as something to control, and anyone who escapes that control becomes an obsession they can't release. Anthony pulled up a map on one of the screens. Pier 17 appeared, highlighted in red. The building Marcus had chosen was isolated, abandoned, perfect for either a reconciliation or an ambush, which meant it was perfect for what we needed too. "It's a trap," Anthony said. "He won't be alone. Probably has Vincent there, maybe others. They're planning something bigger than just getting Emma back." "I know." Dominic studied the map with the focus of someone planning a chess game 12 moves ahead, which is why we spring the trap first. We get there early. Set up our own surveillance. Let Marcus think he's in control while we document everything. Who he's working with, what they're planning, how deep this conspiracy goes. Then we end it. All of it. In one night. And me? I asked. What's my role? You stay here. Safe. Protected. You've done your part, Emma. The rest is... No. Both men looked at me. I crossed my arms, planted my feet, channeled every ounce of strength I'd built over 4 years of survival. I'm going. Not because I want to see Marcus again. Not because I think I can fight whoever he's bringing. But because if I let you go without me, if I stay here safe while you risk everything, then I'm still the girl who ran. Still the victim who needed saving. And I'm not her anymore. I'm the woman who walked through the wrong door and chose to stay. Who looked at your world and said yes anyway. Who gave a statement to the DA knowing it would mark me forever. I've earned the right to finish this. To face Marcus one last time and show him, show myself, that he doesn't own any part of me anymore. Dominic looked at Anthony. Anthony shrugged. Something like approval in his expression. She's right, Anthony said. And tactically, having Emma there makes sense. Marcus expects her. If she doesn't show, he'll know it's a setup. This way, we control the situation while giving him exactly what he thinks he wants. She could get hurt, Dominic said. But his voice held resignation. He already knew I'd won this argument. I've been hurt before, survived it, rebuilt from it. I'm not afraid of pain anymore. I'm afraid of staying small to make other people comfortable. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded once, sharp and final. Tomorrow night. But we do this my way. You wear a wire. You stay in sight of my people at all times. And the moment, the second, anything feels wrong, you get out. No heroics. No trying to handle Marcus yourself. You're there to be seen, to make him comfortable, to let us document what he's planning. Nothing more. Agreed. We spent the rest of the day preparing. Dominic's team, people I'd never met but who moved with the precision of soldiers, scouted Pier 17, identified entry points, set up surveillance positions. Anthony compiled everything we knew about Vincent, Marcus, and the conspiracy they'd built, and I practiced staying calm, staying controlled, transforming my fear into something useful. That night, I couldn't sleep. Lay in the guest room staring at the ceiling, thinking about tomorrow, about facing Marcus, about whether I really had the strength to look at the man who'd fractured my wrist and my sense of safety and tell him he meant nothing to me anymore. Around 2 a.m., I gave up on sleep. Walked to the living room and found Dominic at his usual spot by the window, looking at the city like it held answers he couldn't find anywhere else. Can't sleep either? I asked. Never could. You know that by now. I stood beside him. Our reflections overlapped in the glass. Two people who'd found each other in all the wrong ways at all the wrong times and somehow made it right anyway. I'm scared, I admitted. Not of Marcus, not really, but of what happens after, when this is over, when the threat is gone. Do we go back to normal? Pretend none of this happened? Or has too much changed? Everything's changed, he said quietly. You walked through my door and reminded me that life is more than strategy and survival. That sometimes the wrong choice is the right one because it teaches you who you really are. Emma, when this is over, when Marcus and Vincent and everyone who tried to use you as a weapon is gone, I don't want normal. I want you. However that looks, whatever that costs. Even if it means I keep working at the hospital, keep my own apartment, keep parts of my life separate from yours. Especially then. I don't want to possess you. I want to know you. There's a difference. I turned to face him fully. In the city glow, he looked younger, more vulnerable, like the man beneath the power was someone who'd learned to be strong because the alternative was death, not because violence came naturally. When this is over, I said, when we've faced Marcus and ended this conspiracy and proven that I'm not a weakness in your armor, I want to try, really try, to build something that isn't based on protection or threat or enemies circling. Something that's just us, choosing each other every day because we want to, not because circumstances forced us together. I'd like that, he said, and his hand came up to cut my face with that gentleness that always surprised me. I'd like that very much. We kissed there in front of the windows, the city witnessing our promise, whatever came tomorrow. When we finally pulled apart, dawn was starting to bleed across the skyline. "It's time," he said. The next 20 hours moved like slow torture. Final preparations, strategy sessions, Anthony reviewing everyone's positions, Dominic going over the plan again and again until every detail was carved into memory, and me, being fitted with a wire so small I couldn't even feel it, receiving instructions on how to keep Marcus talking, how to signal if I needed help, how to survive the next few hours. By 9 p.m., we were in position. Dominic's team spread across Pier 17 like shadows, invisible until you knew where to look. Anthony coordinating from a van 2 blocks away, screens showing every angle of the abandoned facility. And me, walking alone toward the building where Marcus waited, my heart pounding so hard I thought the wire might pick it up and broadcast my terror to everyone listening. The door was unlocked. Inside, the space was exactly what I'd expected. Concrete floors, rusted metal, broken windows letting in slivers of moonlight, and standing in the center of it all, Marcus Webb, older now, harder, but still recognizably the man who'd told me he loved me while breaking my bones. "You came," he said, and the relief in his voice was genuine. "I wasn't sure you would. I needed to understand. Needed to know if what you said was true, that you'd changed, that you really loved me, that we could fix what was broken." He moved closer. I forced myself not to flinch, not to step back, not to show the fear that clawed at my throat. "I have changed, Em. These last 4 years, without you, I realized what I'd lost, how much you meant, how wrong I was to hurt you. I got help, therapy, anger management, did everything I could to become someone worthy of a second chance. It was a beautiful lie, one he almost believed himself. But I'd learned to read manipulation now, could see the calculation beneath the contrition, could recognize that this wasn't redemption but strategy. And the Volkov family? Vincent Marchetti? Dominic Carrera? What do they have to do with you changing?" His expression flickered. Surprise that I knew those names. Recognition that this wasn't the innocent reconciliation he'd expected. "That's just business, baby. Nothing to do with us. I needed work. They needed someone who knew the city. Just a job. A job that involved stalking me for 6 months, taking photographs, feeding information to people who wanted to destroy Dominic. I was protecting you. He's dangerous, Emma. I saw how he looked at you, how he pulled you into his world. I was trying to save you from making a mistake, the way you saved me before, when you fractured my wrist." He stepped closer. I stepped back. The dance we'd done 100 times before, predator and prey, violence and submission. That was different. I was different. You made me crazy back then. But I'm better now. We can be better together. "No," I said, and my voice was steady, clear, stronger than I'd ever heard it. "We can't. Because you're not better, Marcus. You're just better at hiding what you are. Better at manipulation. Better at making your violence sound like love. But I see you now. Really see you. And you're just a sad man who can't accept that I stopped being yours the moment I learned I belonged to myself." His face transformed. The charm dropped away, revealing rage so pure it was almost beautiful in its honesty. "You think you can reject me? After everything I've done for you? After all the planning, all the waiting, all the work I put into getting you away from Carrera? There it is. The real you. The one who sees women as things to acquire and keep. The one who measures love in control and possession and violence. You're mine, Emma. You've always been mine. And if I can't have you?" He pulled a gun from behind his back. Not slowly, not theatrically, just fast, efficient, the motion of someone who'd practiced violence until it became muscle memory. Then no one can. Time stretched. I saw Dominic's men emerging from shadows, saw Anthony's team moving into position, saw the trap closing around Marcus like a fist. But none of them would reach me in time. None of them could stop the bullet if Marcus decided to pull the trigger. So I did what nurses do. I talked. "Do you remember the night we met?" My voice was soft, conversational, like we were discussing dinner plans instead of my death. "That party. You told me I was beautiful, that you'd never met anyone like me. I believed you. Believed you saw something in me worth loving. And maybe you did. But Marcus, love isn't supposed to hurt. It's not supposed to require someone to diminish themselves so you can feel powerful. Real love, the kind I found with Dominic, makes you want to be better, not smaller, makes you braver, not more afraid. You taught me what love wasn't, and I'm grateful for that, because now I know what it is. The gun wavered. For just a moment, I saw uncertainty in his eyes. You love him? Yes. More than you loved me. I never loved you, Marcus. I loved who I thought you were, but that person was never real. Dominic is real. His darkness, his violence, his impossible choices, all of it is real. And he's never once made me feel like I needed to be anyone other than exactly who I am. Then you can die loving him. His finger moved toward the trigger. I closed my eyes, thinking about Dominic, about the coffee he made every morning, about the way he said my name like it was something precious. The gunshot was deafening, but I wasn't dead. I opened my eyes. Marcus was on the ground, clutching his shoulder, the gun skittering across concrete. Dominic stood 10 feet away, his own weapon still raised, his face carved from fury and fear. "You don't get to touch her," Dominic said, each word precise and cold. "You don't get to threaten her. You don't even get to think her name. She stopped being yours the moment she found the courage to leave, and she never belonged to me. She belongs to herself." Police poured in then, real police, not corrupted ones. Investigators from the DA's office who'd been listening to every word Marcus said, who now had everything they needed to prosecute not just Marcus, but Vincent, the inside traitor in Dominic's organization. Everyone who'd been part of the conspiracy. Anthony appeared at my side, guided me outside while Dominic stayed to give his statement, to document everything, to ensure Marcus would never be free again. I stood on the pier watching dawn break over the city, feeling lighter than I had in years. Maybe in my entire life. "You did good in there," Anthony said. Kept him talking. Gave us everything we needed. I did it for me. Not for the case. For me. To prove that he didn't define me anymore. And now I get my life back. The one I built. The one I chose. And I see if there's room in it for someone who makes me coffee and stays up all night and loves me catastrophically. Dominic found me, an hour later, exhausted, covered in concrete dust, but smiling. Really smiling. "It's over," he said. "Vincent was arrested at the airport. Marcus will spend the next 20 years in prison. The traitor in my organization was identified and removed. Emma, it's really over. What happens now?" "That depends on you, on what you want, what you need." I looked at him, at this man who'd shown me that protection didn't mean possession, that strength meant vulnerability, that love was choosing someone even when it was inconvenient and dangerous and completely impractical. "I want my apartment back. My job, my independence. I want to know I can survive without you. But I also want you. Want morning coffee and midnight conversations and the knowledge that someone sees all of me and chooses me anyway. Can we have both? Can I keep my life and build one with you too?" "Yes," he said simply. "That's the only way I'd want it." 6 months later, I still lived in 4B, still worked doubles at the hospital, still ate cereal for dinner standing at my counter. But some nights, the best nights, I'd knock on the door of 4C, and Dominic would answer, and we'd exist together in that space between independence and intimacy, proving that love didn't mean losing yourself. It meant finding someone who made you more yourself than you'd ever been alone. Marcus stayed in prison. Vincent disappeared into witness protection after testifying against the Volkov family. The conspiracy that had tried to destroy us became a story we told each other late at night, proof that we'd survived, transformed, chosen each other across every obstacle. And sometimes, when I couldn't sleep, I'd stand at Dominic's window looking down at the city, thinking about the girl who walked through the wrong door and found the right life on the other side. Thinking about how the best things happen in moments of accident and courage and the willingness to stay when every instinct screams run. I knocked on the wrong door, found the right person, and learned that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is love someone brave enough to let you be free. If you made it to the end of this story, let us know in the comments which city you're watching from. And click the yellow bell to subscribe to the channel and support us. Keep the adventure going by clicking on the suggested video on your screen.